So I would like for you to help me with this. I have a grandson who's 9, and I like to hear Esther speak about her grandchildren and how just being with them, that takes you into the vortex, which does for me with him. So when I first heard about the law of attraction, which was about 1.5 years ago, and then started reading the Sarah books, which I think are great, I started talking to him about the law of attraction. And he saw the books, and he saw the tapes, and he saw Esther and Jerry Hicks and recognized the authors and all this. And so he saw the book, Ask and It Is Given. And he said, "Queenie, what is that?" And I said, "Well, you just have to ask, and then you get whatever you ask." So he goes, "Great." And he comes up with these wild things about asking. And 3 different times, and he reminded me the other night when we were going to bed, and he said, "But you told me that I couldn't ask for that, I couldn't have that." And he said, "And so if I want to go to a building and be a superhero and jump off the building, can I do that?" And I said, "I'm going to have to get back with you on this." And I said, "I'm going to ask Abraham how to tell you about this."
It's really wonderful to hear it from a little one, and to recognize that even in his really early exposure to life, he already can feel the wildness. You used the word wild, but he can feel the extremeness in what he's asking about, sort of testing a little bit. The correct answer, and we're going to fill this all in for you, but the correct answer always is, when you want something, when you want an outcome, and you expect the outcome, then it comes about. So ask and it is given, or expect and it is given, those words are interchangeable. Of course, you've heard us say that there are 3 steps: ask, source answers, and then you must allow. So even at its elementary introduction to a child, there is more to it than just saying the words, "I want it." You have to help this child understand that you don't ask with your words, you ask with the rocket of desire that emanates from you, and that the real work, or the real finesse in creating, is in tuning yourself to what you've asked for. So to put it in child's terms, which it's a wonderful thing to do, because everyone understands basics better if they are broken down in simple terms. So if we were visiting with this little one, we would say, "What do you think would happen if you were to jump off a building?" And he might say, "Well, I would just fly away." But then you say, "But what do you think would happen you've seen enough of life. What do you think would happen? What do you think would happen if that bird jumped off the building?" "Well, I think the bird would fly away." And so then you could say, "Well, then you've come to expect that bird to fly because that bird flies. But what do you think would happen if you jumped off that building without any bird wings, or without, what do you think would happen? What do you expect would happen?" And he would say, I would fall to the ground. And then you could say, that's what expectation is. Expectation is what we've come to think will happen under these conditions. And then say to him, that's what I'm working to change. I'm working to find different expectations. I'm working to see it as I want it to be. But I'm not trying to stretch it so far that I can't believe it. So I start with things that I can believe. Like, say to him, there was a time when man wanted to fly and didn't believe he could, and people rode trains, and they rode horses, and they even had automobiles. But in other words, there was a lot that was going on before we were flying in the sky. We came to expect it, and there will be a time when individuals will be able to propel themselves around. In other words, there will be a time when you can strap something that helps you expect it more. You can soar like the hang gliders off the cliffs in California and so forth. But it is important that expectation be in place before you offer any action. In other words, if you don't expect it, then you shouldn't go forward with the action. Now, let's come back further to the really important details of this question. So, this 9-year-old is now asking, take us back to the place about, you said I couldn't have such and such, or you said I couldn't do that.
I can't remember the exact. It was like another time he said, oh, so if I want $1 million in the bank, then I can have that tomorrow. And I said, no, that's not really how it works. I mean,
it is how it works. It is how it works. But the question is, what's going to have to change in your vibration or thought process that makes you expect it? Because this is the thing that's hard to teach to anyone, and maybe a child is readier to hear it than many adults are. It's when you want it and believe it that it immediately is. And so so the answer to that child would be, well, if by tomorrow you can believe it, then yes, it could be there tomorrow. And you don't even really want to say, but for most people it won't be there tomorrow, because that just keeps shoring up the reason that for most people it isn't there tomorrow. So it's an interesting thing when we say you can be or do or have anything that you want. We're not kidding you. There are no limitations, but the rules always apply. You must want it and offer no consistent thought that opposes it. And so that's the thing that you want to say to the child when you want it and believe it. It's the expectation. And when we visit with adults, when we visit with grandparents or parents or teachers, we are really asking them to hold back a bit if they can and not teach so many limitations to the children. But the reason that most adults do teach limitations to children is because they're trying to keep them from jumping off buildings. They're trying to keep them from getting hurt. They don't want them to dream bigger than they have been able to expect. And that's the thing that's so interesting about trying to learn from another person. Another person already has developed their patterns of limiting thought, and they can't teach around their patterns of limited thought. So when this child says, so I can't have it, you have some patterns of limited thought because you've learned those patterns of limited thought and so on, and that's really what you're wanting to convey to the child. Well, just because I haven't done it, just because I haven't done it doesn't mean it can't be done, and doesn't mean that you can't do it. We know it becomes very complicated. Even in this room, there are all kinds of thoughts that are moving about well, what right do we have? How much control should we try to offer over our children? And we say, we get it that you want to lead your children to a path of greatest satisfying life, and there are things that you see in your world that you want to protect them from. But if you could just come to understand that their active vibration is what brings things to them. And the more you tell a child, no, you can't have something, just like those fists that we were talking about, and just like those words that we were talking about, the more you tell someone, no, you can't have it, the more they defend why they should be able to have it, and the more active their vibration is about getting it. And you just can't stand in enough resistant control over someone who wants what they want to prevent them from having it, because law of attraction is far, 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 far too big, you see. So as a parent or a mentor or someone who's wanting to teach someone to have a good life, if you're teaching them through the clarity of your example how to find thoughts that feel good, how to find thoughts that feel good, how to find thoughts that feel good. In other words, this discussion sort of sounds like the discussion that we began with here sort of sounds like trying to teach a child how to overcome the negative thought or the not yet grown up enough thought to overcome doubt in order to accomplish anything. And we want to say we really don't have to have that conversation, because the entire universe is already in place and in motion in order to allow anyone to create anything that they want. We just think that if you understand the basics of the laws and then you begin to practice the thought of it and demonstrate it to yourself, then through the power of your demonstratable life experience, then your 9-year-old grandchild can catch the hang of it faster. In other words, a child who is exposed to a parent or a teacher who believes in this child's ability to create anything he wants is a fantastic advantage to that child. When you hold someone as your object of attention and you expect their life to turn out well, you've created a version of them that you insist on holding yourself to, because you selfishly want to feel good and you can't focus upon them in any way other than the improved way that you've created in your vortex. You are of enormous benefit to that child, because now that child comes to believe in his ability to be or do or have anything faster too, you see. So let's go back to the basics of the questions, because you came for clarification. Ask us the questions just singularly as they came.
That he asked me.
Yes.
Can I be on top of a large building and be a superhero and fly off the building?
Yes, I believe that you can. And I don't recommend that you take the jump until you know that you're in absolute alignment with that thought.
Okay.
Now, we're going to give you more. The answer has to be yes, because all things are possible. But don't do it until you're sure you're in alignment with your desire. Take it further. There are many things that man didn't believe that he could do that now he can do. But thought alignment has to come into place first. Start with the little things. That's what I'm doing, say. That's what I'm doing. I'm starting with the little things, because it's discovering what I believe. If a person wonders if they can do it and jumps off to find out, they crash to the bottom. If a person knows they can before they jump, they have prepared themselves with all things necessary to have the successful outcome. It's all about what we come to expect. And that's what life is so much fun about, coming to expect. In other words, I would expect you to do that if you jumped off with a parachute. I would expect you to do it if you jumped off with an airplane. I would expect you to do it if you jumped off with wings. But if you jumped off without any of those things, it would be hard for me to expect you to do it. So I don't even want to think about that, you see. In other words, what you're trying to do, and this is such a significant conversation that we're having, because what you're saying is there's a generation coming up that are coming to believe. They were born believing things that I still can't believe. Look at what's going on in technology. There are children born believing things that people living on the planet still can't fathom, even though they've already become reality. So we're talking about that generation gap, but we're really talking about a vibrational gap. So the comfortable answer is all things are possible. But I've come to the place that I don't offer any action until I understand with everything that I am that what I want and what I believe are in exactly the same place. So I never jump off a building until I know unequivocally that I will have the successful landing that I'm shooting for. That's the right answer.
Okay.
Good time.